Today we want to take a look at DraftSight and some of the things that make it unique. Beyond its free-to-use product capabilities and its platform independence, meaning it could be used on a Mac or a Linux operating system, there's several other unique capabilities. But there's also a lot of familiar capabilities that you would come to expect. In our section view here, for instance, there's a lot of layers that we really don't need to see. The Layer Manager makes hiding these layers extremely easy. With a simple Shift Select, we can turn all these layers on or off. You can see that made that much simpler. Mouse gestures is another way. With a simple right mouse click, I have access to my most commonly used commands, such as insert block in this case. It's very easy for me to bring a block of standard hardware in. We have common tools such as explode that are also available from the command line as well. So if you're comfortable using toolbars or the command line, either is going to be available to you. I'm going to go ahead and remove these center lines as they're not necessary for what we're doing here. And then I want to create a layer that's unique for these hardware components right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to New, and we're going to create a new layer called Hardware. I'm going to give it a unique color in this case. And I'm going to create another layer that goes along with that called Hardware Hidden. And that's going to be for the hidden lines. You can see that all the line types you would come to expect are available easily, and I can also load a wide variety of line types as well. But the lines that we already have loaded into this document are going to work just fine for us. So I'll choose Hidden in this case. I'm going to go ahead and window select these components and simply drop them on the hardware layer. But I want to change some of the other components to be on another layer, the hardware hidden line layer. So I'll select these hidden components and I'll put them on that layer, and you can see that the line types are appropriately reflected. The other thing that's unique about these components is their length. Our block uses a standard 10mm length, but we want to make sure that these are the 16mm fasteners that we're looking for. From the mouse gestures, it's very easy to quickly and easily enter an offset value here. I'm going to go ahead and offset that line, and we want to stretch this. Now I can grab the stretch tool from the side, and making sure that I'm perpendicular is easy with the context sensitive snaps. I'm going to choose perpendicular in this case, and we'll remove that extra line. Another way I could have done that is I could have moved these entities out 6mm. Pressing F8 will bring in a common orthogonal snapping that we're probably used to. And I can extend these up to this line right here. Using quick window selection and crossing makes this easy. Other common commands are available as well, such as the ability to rotate these entities. For example, I'm going to need this in a -90 orientation later on. Now that my hardware is here, I want to go ahead and place it in the appropriate locations. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to move this top view. I'm going to grab the center. You'll notice that DraftSight uses unique snapping capabilities that allow me to quickly and easily grab on to all the geometry that's relevant. I'm going to press F8 again to turn snapping off so I can locate these easily on the center of this other component. To create a copy of these is easy. Using the mirror command, I can choose all my previous entities and I can mirror about the center line here. Invoking ortho again will make this extremely easy. I want to find the appropriate location in the front view, and infinite line is a great tool that allows me to do this. And I'm going to create some infinite lines from the center of these hex head cap screws. And I'm going to then move this front view of this fastener right here. I want to make sure that I have its midpoint, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop it onto the intersection right here where that component belongs. I can copy my previous components like before, and to make sure I have the appropriate location, again, I'm going to use a specific snap in this case, perpendicular to that infinite line. I'm done with the infinite line and I can delete that, and I want to do some trimming here. The trim tools are easily accessible in a familiar fashion. You can see it's very easy for me to select and eliminate the components that or the lines in geometry that I don't need. But what if I wanted to move those over to that hidden line layer? Using the split tool inside of DraftSight makes this extremely easy. You can see by using this tool, instead of trimming a line and removing it, I can break it up. I could trim it if I wanted to, however, and we could remove this side entity and simply create a line here in this case. I want to make sure that all the layers are appropriate, and instead of selecting each line individually and choosing a layer, the match properties is a great way to do this. I can select any entity and make sure that all my properties match accordingly to that entity. And in this case, this isn't on my hardware layer right here, so we'll do that one more time using one of the object lines of that layer. So you can see there's a wide variety of ways of accomplishing that. In this case, I don't want to see those hidden lines, so you can see from the pull down it's very easy for me to turn those off, and we have the appropriate view necessary. The last view is the left-hand view of this component, where we want to move this other fastener representation. We're going to go ahead in this case, and we're simply just going to move that over to that other view, and to make sure we have the right location, we'll zoom in and we'll snap to the intersection here. Now I didn't get that quite right, so we'll move that again. Select that midpoint and we'll zoom back in. Finally, we want to trim these lines out similar to the ones we had done before, so we'll go ahead and grab the appropriate geometry and get rid of what's not necessary in the case of this fastener. The last step is going to be to go ahead and add the bill of material line item for this component. Using blocks is another great way of doing this, and because this block has already been referenced in this drawing, it's easily accessible. We're going to go ahead and drop this into our view, specify the item number, the part number, and of course a description. Oops, I forgot the quantity. It's easy to fix inside a DraftSight. With a simple double click we can access all of our block properties very easily. The final thing we need to do is add a couple of dimensions here. I'm going to switch to the dimension layer, and I'm going to use some of the great dimension tools inside of DraftSight. In this case, I want to add a diameter here, but because it's just a linear dimension, we don't have a diameter symbol. We always have the ability to overwrite any dimension values using common practices, such as %C in this case, and double carets will give us the diameter symbol, but maintaining the associative value. We're going to add a horizontal dimension and do a very similar operation to call this out as a reference dimension in this case. Now that we have our drawing complete, we can see that DraftSight gives us all the tools we're used to working with in a typical 2D application, making it extremely easy to use, using a combination of toolbars, mouse gestures, and even that familiar command line. We also have the property pane on the left-hand side of the graphics area that makes controlling these properties extremely easy.